Hey everybody, welcome back, and guess what? We still have one more of these to do. I had several people let me know that I actually did forget one category, and that is actually numbers, movie titles with numbers. So I sort of went through and I was like, you know what? If I can't find 10 that have meaning for me and I'm not just adding titles just to add titles, I will go ahead and do the numbers ones. Otherwise, I'm just gonna let it slide. Guess what? I found 10 titles, so we're back for one last one in the top 10 favorite films from each letter, this one covering the numbers. So first up is the Charles Bronson film 10 to Midnight, and this is sort of an interesting one in the Charles Bronson sort of filmography in that it's kind of like a really exploitation. I mean, some of his films are. I've seen My Favorite Death Wish 3, it's probably a prime example, but this one is really kind of much more of a, almost like a slasher film with, you know, the Charles Bronson aspect kind of thrown into it, which also means it's highly enjoyable. And it's kind of sick and twisted and everything, and plus it stars Charles Bronson, so it hits all the marks with me. Next up is Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys. Now this is an interesting film because it has to do with time travel and it has to do with like a dystopian future and everything. And you know, and the cast was really good. So was Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, and Brad Pitt in a supporting role. That's when he was really trying to, you know, kind of push himself, I think, much more of as an actor, because he plays a bit of a loon in the film, like literally. Well, I may lose a little guy credit on this next one, depending on your point of view, and that is actually 13 going on 30. I actually really love this film. I think it's hilarious, and I think I'm a sucker for some of those, you know, children becoming adults or adults becoming children kind of things. I know there've been like several of them, because I think it's a little bit of that fish out of water element, which I do find really entertaining when that is part of a film. And I do think this film actually is very funny and it is very touching, and I think the chemistry in the cast is really good. Next up is one of my favorite William Castle films, and that is 13 Ghosts. This one is sometimes surprising when I hear other people's thoughts on it. Some people think it's really kind of slow and boring and stuff. I don't know, I think it's just a lot of fun. Like I wish I could have seen it with the gimmick, you know, where you're in the theater and stuff, and you know, you put the glasses on and you see the ghosts and everything. Like, that would have been kind of cool. And I think the fact that it has that William Castle touch to it, I think really makes it sort of extra special. Next up is 1990 Bronx Warriors, and that is one of those Italian sort of post-apocalyptic, I think, sort of like a mix between Mad Max and the Warriors. And I'm kind of a sucker for those. I know they made a bunch of different ones that had different elements to them and everything, but I don't know, I just have a lot of fun with them. And this one specifically, I think, is sort of one of the better made ones. And I think what helps too is that it is directed by Enzo Castellari, who is one of the better Italian filmmakers, especially of sort of the Italian exploitation films, basically. Next one is the Walt Disney film 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and this is sort of one of those where I think if you kind of grew up with it, I mean, I know as a kid, seeing it on video and stuff, and just, you know, the whole it's funny because you see it now and it's like, well, okay, but it's like, well, as a kid, like, you know, the whole giant squid sequence and everything, like, it was actually like pretty traumatic. Actually, not traumatic. And I think I sort of have a fascination with like the ocean and everything, so that kind of lends itself. Next one will probably come as no surprise, and that is Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. For sure, one that is really amazing, and one I've seen multiple times, and it's definitely one that I know sort of has a little bit of a thing where it's just like, well, do you love 2001 because you're trying to impress somebody, or do you really love the film? I can honestly say I actually really do love the film. Although the first time I did watch it, I think I was just like, I didn't know what to think of it. Definitely one that I came to appreciate over the years, and now it's like I just love watching it now. Next up is Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later, and this is sort of not a zombie film, even though it sort of gets referred to that. It's actually much more of an infection film where, you know, you get infected and you kind of go crazy and everything. And it's funny because in a way it's a remake, a loose remake of Dawn of the Dead. Like, there's a lot of Dawn of the Dead elements in it, some of them a little kind of blatant, and I believe that was actually sort of done as an homage because the writer was a huge fan of George Romero's, and the fact that they sort of shot it, especially at the time, on prosumer cameras and everything, you know, that was really inspiring, you know, especially when you're a young filmmaker and everything. Next one is one I've mentioned, I know, several times, and that is 8mm. I think next to Lost Boys, it's probably my favorite Joel Schumacher film, and it's really dark and it's kind of disturbing because it has to do with like snuff films and everything, and it's a pretty intense intense film. And actually, and Nicolas Cage is like really, really good in it. And Joaquin Phoenix is in it, and he's really good. But it's like really well made, but it still has those like kind of creepy elements to it. And then finally on my list is 976 Evil, the film directed by Robert Englund, starring Stephen Jeffries. It's just a really fun film. And it's one that I think sometimes gets a little bit underappreciated because it was one that didn't do well when it came out. I think it has developed a following over the years, which is good, but I've loved it ever since I first saw it. So that's it for my top 10 picks for the numbers. I'm pretty sure I haven't missed any other categories, although feel free to let me know. So I think maybe now officially we're at the end of this whole thing. So now I can move on to other types of videos. So definitely let me know your picks. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.